decision overturned, have asked for, an explanation. And, all I got from immigration was that it was domestic and or foreign intelligence that they were relying on. So, that can lead to a lot of speculation.
Yes, like foreign
Which I probably don't want it to.
Foreign intelligence could most likely be US, but nobody knows why the US. I mean, one knows why the US would not with the Colombian election not to be observed. That one can understand. Anyway, so that brings me to the question of the Colombian election itself. The second round is going to start in less than 12 hours. So, what do you think of this? What is your opinion? What do you think is going to happen? How would it unfold?
Well, I think for me personally, I don't want to speak for the Colombian people, though I have many friends, who live in Colombia, journalists specifically. I think it was a disappointment that the Pacto Histórico, Petro Marquez ticket, did not win the first round. The polls were showing them going into the first round elections with 51% of the vote, and the results at the end of the day were just over 40%. So for me, it was incongruous with what we witnessed this time last year during the Paro Nacional. April, May, June of 2021 saw about 72% of the Colombian population nationwide. So this included people in the capital who were disaffected with the government and protesting. And I will say that the protests even took place in Bogota, which is unusual for the capital to see that sort of anti-government disruption. We were in communities that included doctors, lawyers, academics, architects, people. There was one flash protest our last day in Bogota during commuter hours on the main carretera coming, leaving the city. And this group of protesters started marching down the carretera with a, big pancarta, a big banner that was 2 lanes wide. And so that basically, stopped the traffic exiting the city behind them. And so we went with our, to go witness that. I do have some recorded footage of it, which may or may not be part of the reason I wasn't allowed into the country. But anyway, it was fascinating to see, and really, really important to see, that you had bus drivers and service vehicles stopping and honking and supporting the flash protest, but also people in white BMWs. I mean, middle and upper middle class people stopping and participating. So when you see something like that, you're inclined to believe the government has lost its country. When you see that particular demographic joining the rest of the disaffected people, it was pretty profound to witness that in the capital. So to see that large of a disaffected population, not to have those statistics not transition to a win the first round for the Pacto Histórico was surprising to me. Although not every, you've got 2 populist candidates now going into tomorrow, the June 19th, or today for you. And they're both populists, one on the left and one on the right. So those both, anti-current government candidates. So it does make sense that those 2 would have the support. And of course, not everyone that protested the government in 2021 would obviously go for one, majority one candidate or the other. I mean, that's, but I will say I was surprised. And unfortunately, what has happened with this moving to the second round, it has the results of the first round allowed for a consolidation of the right-wing candidates. So together, they now, I think, represent just over 52% going in tomorrow. So I think that equates to about 2.5 to 3 million votes that Petro is going to need to win tomorrow. I think it's possible. I hope it's possible. I think one of the reason I believe it's possible is because Tuesday night, well, one, he's just enormously popular as his running mate, Francia. Two, there was a low turnout on 29 May. I think less than 50% of registered voters showed up or participated on the 29th. So there is room there with greater turnout for a win for Pacto Histórico tomorrow. But the reason I think that win is very possible is because Tuesday night, Wednesday, the government started detaining across the entire country activists, journalists, and other participants of the Paro Nacional last year. Those people were not rounded up and detained last year. There were no prosecutions. That's all happened a year later. And they claim it was a preventative detainment of these people based on social media surveillance or suggesting that if the right wing wins tomorrow, there would be mass mobilizations across the country. Well, that's all, circumspect. There's no proof that that was going to happen. So it was a preemptive measure that started happening Tuesday night through Wednesday across the country. So this was activists, journalists, and quote unquote other participants of the Paro Nacional with no what's the word I want? Formal prosecution. It was just arbitrary detainment. So seeing that happen, is I think reason to believe that the Pacto Histórico is a real threat. It's a real possibility that that they could win tomorrow. I hope for the Colombian people that what has passed on Tuesday and Wednesday serves as a incentive to go vote and is not a fear tactic to discourage people from voting. But but this detainment of all these people this week, as opposed to like last summer, close, during or right immediately after the Paro Nacional, it's circumspect. And, it looks very odd. I'm sure it's very fearful. And for people inside Colombia, and of course for the outside world observing things, it looks very, as a scare tactic. The other thing that's fascinating that happened yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong, and we're seeing a lot of social media posts about this, is Hernandez's, party on his private yacht prior, 2-3 days prior to election day. That, of course, doesn't look very good either, I have to say. So tomorrow is going to be a hugely important day for the Colombian people. And I really, hope that it goes peacefully and free of fraud and any sort of manipulation for the outcome. It's so important. One of the things that I think for your audience, and your audience is, I'm sure aware of that, but perhaps not, is that the other thing that's playing out here is that Colombia is a NATO global partner, and I forget what designation President Biden gave Duque in March of this year was, after
major non-NATO ally.
Which that was given Colombia after the United States had sent a delegation to meet with the Maduro government in Venezuela to talk about opening, or resuming the oil trade.